And there I was the girl from Suits.
This one's wife. Porn to do it. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. One of the interesting things about the internet is the proliferation of pornographic material that then became available to people. It used to be the case that if you were a teenage boy, you would either try and find your father's porn stash or a grumble mag in a hedgerow somewhere, which you would then excitedly tuck away somewhere and produce at those moments when the urge arose. Along came the internet, and as a consequence of that, porn is everywhere. And the use of pornographic material is something that occurs in relation to the behaviour of the narcissist. And if you'd like to understand more in that regard, I would direct you towards the video, The Porn Supremacy, which explains more about the way that the narcissist sees and utilises porn. And if you'd like an even deeper dive, so to speak, read my excellent book, Sex and the Narcissist, which you can obtain from the Knowledge Vault, and is also available on Amazon. But what about this one's wife? The suggestion of some involvement in pornography is a spectre that has hung around her for some time. There has been the suggestion that she has offered her services to certain wealthy men by virtue of being a yacht girl. But alongside that, there's also been the suggestion that at an early juncture in her career, in order to make money and to advance her prospects, that she has engaged in some application of the old spicy poontang as part of a filmed repertoire. Now, it is the case that certain individuals, when they're first looking to get themselves on the ladder of success with regard to a career in film and television, and also to make some money, end up venturing into the world of porn. There are examples of people who become famous who have perhaps engaged in some soft porn activity, even other items which would be regarded as harder. And it is understood that this can be a path that is taken. Is this something that could be applicable to this one's wife? Well, the short answer is yes, for two reasons. One, she was an actress, and as I've just explained, although it is not the case that everybody does this, it is more likely that you could venture into the world of porn as an aspiring actress compared to, say, if you decide that you want to be an architect or an engineer. Therefore, because of the way that it is seen as a route, and of course the way that people are exploited by those dangling the carrot of further success by saying, if you just remove your clothes and suck on that, it means that certain individuals find themselves venturing into that particular territory. The second reason, of course, is by virtue of her narcissism. This one's wife as a somatic narcissist is hypersexualized. As Harry memorably said, she'll let you do anything. And that means that her narcissism utilizes sex as a means to get to the prime aims. She uses sex to control people, notably men. She uses sex as a way to get fuel out of people, by way of flirting with them, doing the nasty, lashing out the spicy poontang for the purposes of gaining a response. It enables her to access residual benefits. For instance, it may well be the case that she could be paid in certain circumstances. It might enable her to gain some advancement career-wise. And therefore, sex is often used by narcissists to get to the prime aims. And in that regard, this one's wife would be no exception. Now, this doesn't mean that every single narcissist has got a porn career in the background, but rather means that many narcissists, especially those of a somatic and elite persuasion, will utilize sex as a route to the prime aims. It also means, however, that you'll have a higher proportion of individuals who are narcissists that will stray into the realms of a pornographic career because they don't see anything wrong with it, They don't think that it is a bar to success. And in the moment, the narcissism basically drives them to engage in that sexual activity for the pursuit of the prime aims. Furthermore, invariably being hypersexualized and used to putting on a performance, they're often well suited to being porn actors or porn actresses because of the desire to get down and dirty and fire around a spicy poontang, but also to make all of the requisite noises and facial expressions, etc., to show they're really getting into it and putting on a performance. Accordingly, the somatic narcissist is particularly geared up to potentially having a rather successful career in pornography. You will have noticed recently that I analysed the behaviour of an admitted porn actress, Bonnie Blue, who has been getting a name for herself as a consequence of lining up many men to slip her a crippler and knock her hip out. Well, what about this one's wife? The stage is set that potentially she could have had a career in that regard by virtue of, one, it being something that aspiring actors and actresses become involved in, more than, say, as I mentioned, getting into a career in architecture or engineering, and two, as a somatic narcissist, she is designed, if you will, to be more likely to engage in such activity. Thus, whilst it's not guaranteed that she would end up in such a career, there is the likelihood of it being a greater possibility than usual. However, what actual evidence exists to show that she was involved in such a career other than gossip and rumour? Well, I've been sent some stills that have purportedly been taken from her engaging in said activity. One of the difficulties that I have is that I can't show you the actual photographs, the stills themselves. Otherwise, I'd end up having this channel closed down because it would be a breach of the terms of the use of this platform. And naturally, you don't want your glorious narrator to disappear. And instead, I'm going to apply my descriptive talents instead. However, if you're particularly keen to see them, to judge for yourself, you could always email me and ask very nicely, with perhaps a donation to the Dirt's Appreciation Fund, and I may then be moved to provide you with said evidence so that you can make your own minds up. Now, of the four, one of them actually appears in the thumbnail that you're looking at. It's clipped so that you can't see the chest area, and you'll have noticed that there appears to be somebody positioned behind this one's wife. At first glance, that does give the appearance that she's involved in some spicy poontang activity that has been filmed and found its way onto the internet. However, is there a possibility that it's a Photoshop, that her facial expression has been taken and positioned on somebody else's body? It is a repeated risk. The expression is one that sort of fits with the activity that's going on, and the skin tones seem to match, but it could be a Photoshop. One always has to keep that in mind. You can make your own judgment as to whether you believe that's a legitimate still from some spicy poontang activity that's taking place, or whether it has been manufactured. The second photograph that I was sent, I shall describe to you. It shows this one's wife lying on her back. It's her face that you can see most clearly. Her breasts are exposed. There is a white sheet across her middle, and then her legs are akimbo, showing off the old wizard sleeve. With this, I suspect that this is photoshopped. Although, again, the skin tone seems to match, I don't think the breast size is representative of her, and accordingly, there does seem to be a bit of a mismatch between what you're seeing facially and the body. Accordingly, I would suggest that that's a suspect photograph and isn't legitimate. But we then move into two more stills that have been provided to me, which really do cause one to question whether she's engaged in the activity. The third one shows her looking into the eyes of no doubt a grateful recipient. And it's clearly her face, and she has the male member positioned before her in a tumescent state, and her mouth is addressing it. It, at first glance, does appear to be something that could be legitimate, albeit it could be that the face has been positioned behind said member rather than it being actually interacting. So there is a possibility that it has been manufactured, although at first glance it does look legitimate and certainly shows her in the act of pleasuring somebody. The fourth one very much looks like it's legitimate. Again, she's involved in the act of providing some oral pleasure. This time, mouth is open and addressing said member. It certainly looks like her, although she's looking downwards, and the picture does not look like it's been concocted in any way. It looks legitimate. And the only question mark that I would raise in respect of this is the possibility that it is a very good lookalike as opposed to actually being her. Now, it is the case that it is repeatedly stated that steps were taken on her entry into the royal family to scrub certain things from the internet, which has included the suggestion of removing pornographic activity. Nevertheless, an individual managed to find 4 pictures which purport to be her involved in said activity and sent them to me, which merits discussion as to, is this something that a somatic narcissist might engage in? Answer, yes. And is it her? Well, that's something that you would have to weigh up, having looked at the images for yourself. The fact is that it is a possibility that she could have engaged in such a career before joining the royal family, and understandably this would be something that it would be keen for them to keep quiet. Whether she did, I'll let you make your own minds up, but there's certainly evidence that pushes in that direction. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.